Welcome to the Timeout podcast with Tyshon Taylor, hosted by Rock, which is me. A man to the left here needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. He was born in Hoboken, New Jersey. He attended St. Anthony's High School, where he played under the great Bob Hurley. During the 07-08 season, he led the team to a 32-0 record and was dubbed the USA Today National Championship Team. As a four-star recruit, he came to the University of Kansas. His freshman year, he made the Big 12 All-Rookie team. He did start all 4 years at KU. His senior year averaged over 16 points a game, 5 assists, while leading the Hawks to the national championship game. He went on to be the 41st pick overall in the 2012 NBA draft, none other than Tyshon Taylor.
Thank you.
What's up, Tyshon?
Missed a couple things in that intro, but it's all good. That was pretty damn good.
I mean, I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous.
Yeah, that was pretty damn good. Thank you for that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate all the work you put in behind the scenes to make this happen. So I'm excited to be here.
Me too, man. So how you been?
Been doing good, man. A lot of things been going on this summer. Had a eventful summer to say the least. Been doing a lot of traveling, a lot of basketball. Camps and clinics, individual workouts with some young kids. Played in a couple charity games back at home in Jersey. Got hired to be a coach at a high school.
You're giving away all our information already in the first question, man.
What's going on with me? I'm trying to tell you, man. It's a lot. It's been a lot. It's been a eventful few months for me.
So let's talk to the listeners just a little bit before we get started and kind of walk them through like how the podcast came to fruition and what they can expect from the podcast.
Well, me and you met, now that I'm doing my training and stuff, I started to train your son Chamberlain, do some basketball stuff. And as you guys stay consistent with the training, me and you, got to talking and just, seeing how much we had in common, how many things that we seen the same way, how many things that we liked that were the same. And so, just over simple conversation, just kind of generically happened. Somebody who does tech, and I know, and I'm me, and I like to talk about myself, and you were gassing me up, so it was kind of easy to
now, look, man, I know I promised you I wouldn't tell this story on the air, but I feel like I can't withhold it from our listeners, man, right? So how it really came to be is one day you came to me and said, "Yo, Rock, I really want to do a podcast, but I need somebody a little bit better looking than me, a little bit smarter than me, and a little bit funnier than me to help host it." And I went through the list of people, and man, you meet all those criteria. Would you help me out? Isn't that look, I told you from day one, I don't want to hold nothing back from the listeners. This is going to be a behind the scenes, all access to.
Now you guys see why he's here.
No, so like he said, I've been bringing my son and my daughter now to train with Tyshon, and we just got to talking, and we both enjoy a lot of the same things. And so, what can the listeners expect from the Timeout podcast?
I think they can expect just us up here clowning, being real. For one, talking a little bit about me, my story, and my background. Where I came from, the things I got going on now, and as far as training and doing individual stuff with the youth. Also, hopefully get a couple of my ex-teammates up here, some of my close friends up here, to tell their stories, because we've all, had similar journeys, but had to take different routes. So to hear perspectives of other, basketball players who are either still hooping now or, making a transition to other things, I think the fans will get a kick out of that, as well as myself. Just hearing again some of the stories from some of my teammates. Talk about fatherhood, talk about real life things, current event things. Obviously, we talk about sports. Football season is about to start. We wanted to start this a little while ago before our Jayhawks won, but obviously we'll touch on them and you being a Jayhawk fan and me just
Mr. Jayhawk
being a legend.
Right.
So we'll obviously cover a bunch of Jayhawk stuff.
So for me,
Yeah.
what's interesting for me is you may find this hard to believe, but coming out of high school, I wasn't very highly recruited for anything at
You're
any
not. No, that's
sports.
not.
That
I
doesn't
don't.
surprise you.
Yeah. No.
So for me, I'd
Not
like
at
to
all.
dig into
I
kind of
salute
the
you, by the way.
kind of dig into the behind the scenes, like because you see a lot of athletes doing podcasts and interviews, and it's usually the same stuff, same questions. So I want to ask random behind the scenes questions that the normal, average, everyday fan wouldn't be have access to or wouldn't know about. Just random, just stuff that's always made me curious,
For sure.
just to be a little bit different.
I
But
got all the answers, bro.
that's good, man. That's good. So for episode 1, we're going to take a look at the life of Tyshon Taylor, starting back in Hoboken, New Jersey. Now we're going to have a lot of future episodes that we can dive deep into some of the stories and some of the experiences, but we don't want to give them all away on the first episode. So let, let's start with your childhood in New Jersey, man. What was it like growing up in New Jersey
Um,
back in the what, 60s?
damn. Early '90s, man. Early
Oh, early
'90s,
90s.
baby.
My bad, my bad.
Born in 1990, to a young mother, a young single mother. Um, I guess we call it the projects. I guess you call it low income housing, or however people describe it. But um, it was cool. I had all my family there. I had a bunch of cousins my age. A bunch of friends my age growing up there. When you come from communities like that, you find a sense of community outside, not just with your family, but in other people. The people in the community. So it felt like a big family. Love New Jersey. Love Hoboken. Love New Jersey. One of my favorite places to be, to visit. Um, yeah, then I actually moved to Florida as a young kid when I was about 8 or 9. So I spent some time there as a youth as well. So I made some friends there, and that's probably where I feel like found my love for basketball, kind of maybe, because I was able to sign up for my first league and play, YMCA basketball, and that's where I played my first AAU and things like that before I really got good, and then the story kind of unfolded itself. But
So was basketball your first and only love, or did you play the other sports as well?
nah, I never did anything else, man. I never. Once I found basketball, it legit saved my life. It like kept me busy. It kept me out of trouble. It kept me motivated. It held me accountable because I knew that I wanted to play, and if I didn't do certain things, whether it be grades or chores, I wouldn't be able to play. So once I found basketball, it was it for me. I never even thought about doing anything else.
At what age did you realize that this thing is more than just playing basketball with my friends, or more than just rec league basketball? Like, I go out there and play basketball, and it's just basketball. At
Yeah,
some point,
I always took it that serious though. I think that's why I was good, is because I always took it that serious. But when I knew for sure that it was like people watching me and people noticing how good I think I am, like I think I'm pretty good, but people are actually noticing it, was my freshman year. The school I went to in Florida was called Countryside High School, and the coach I had there, his name was Bob Marinak. And one day at a practice, I was kind of like BSing around, not going hard. And I was a freshman playing varsity, and so we had older guys that were like going really hard and like trying really hard. And I'm going through the motions kind of. He came up to me and like kind of like snatched me by my collar and was like, "Bro, why are you always bullshitting? Like, you know how good you can be? Like, I see flashes of you being a pro and you don't even realize it. Obviously, you being young, but like, then you see the older guys who you're clearly better than, and you probably know it, but you kind of like shy away from being the best one because they're older, they're your friends."
right?
And so that is when I was like, all right, I'm about to stop trying to not be the best one and just show them that I'm the best one. And that's when it kind of clicked to me that I could really be good at this, and I am good. Like, I'm better than the people that I think are good. Like, and it's other people telling me this. This wasn't me feeling that. It was other people telling me, and then I had to take a step back and realize, well, damn, maybe they know what they're talking about.
So when you came to KU, obviously you're probably recruited by other schools. Kind of just touch on that. Like I said, future episodes we can dig in a little bit deeper and go through the process behind the scenes. But just kind of touch on what was that like. I'm assuming you started getting offers freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year.
I actually did not.
Really?
Yeah, so I didn't get an offer my freshman year, which was part of the reason that I moved back to New Jersey. So I would come back and forth to New Jersey and Florida as a kid, I moved to Florida, so I would always come back home for spring break or Christmas or whatever it may be. And so one spring break, I came back and I went to the high school that I would end up going to for like a pickup or like a open gym, and I was playing with some other guys or freshmen that I felt like I was just as good as. And they started talking to me about like all the recruiting letters that they were getting. And I went back to Florida at the school that I was at. Clearly, again, the best player. The coach told me this as a freshman, but I wasn't like getting recruited or anything. So in my mind, I'm like, is it me or is it my location type of thing? So I didn't get my first letter until my sophomore year when I, I announced that I would be going to the St. Anthony's High School was when I got my first letter. And I hadn't even played a game. But
who the first letter come from?
Maybe Seton Hall or Rutgers or something like that. St. Bonaventure, something like a small A-10 school. But with that being said, for me, it was the first one, so I'm just like, I didn't even play a game for the school, but because the coach, because the school was, so highly touted that they knew if I could play there, I could be good enough to potentially play at their university. So they jumped on board that summer, and when I actually started to play, it piled up like a lot. I pretty much had any school, except for a couple that stand out that I care about, like Duke. I didn't get recruited by Duke. Kentucky didn't recruit me.
What was the recruiting pitch from KU? Do you remember? Like, what was their sales?
It wasn't much of a pitch. So to kind of go back a little bit, my recruiting story is a little funky. I'm sure there's some funky ones out there, which we'll get to once we talk to some of my teammates. But mine personally was kind of weird because I was played on a great high school team, had 6 seniors, all committed. And I was like one of the last ones on my high school team that committed. And the school that was showing me the most attention was Marquette at the time. Also being in the Big East, I knew I would be able to come back to New Jersey and play against Rutgers, play against Seton Hall, play against St. John's, and family would be able to come watch. So I was like, all right, cool. Committed to Marquette. Tom Crean, who was the head coach at the time, ended up taking the Indiana job like a couple weeks later. And so that opened my recruitment back up. And by that time, with that whole process happening, KU had won a national championship. A bunch of guys had left, and so when Coach Self came to recruit me, his recruiting pitch was, "This is who I got. If you can't come find a spot on this roster, then I'm recruiting the wrong guy anyway." He's like, and there's no offense to any of these guys I got, but none of them have played yet. None of them have showed me that they're like a starter or a proven college guy. Besides Sharon and Cole, I think we were the only two.
Right.
So at that time, it was like, and in my mind, I'm like, this is coming from a team that just won a national championship, so I mean, they have a potential to win again, regardless of what the roster says. Right. They have the potential to win again, and if I'm in the mix, on top of coming from a school like you said earlier, I'm used to winning. I won a national championship the year before that in high school. The year before that, I only lost 1 game. The year before that, I lost 2 games. So, like a school like Kansas, I was meant to be at because I'm a winner. It's my thing.
So when you were growing up, did you have a college team growing up that you rooted for, that you
watched? I always
watched?
loved North Carolina. Okay. I always liked, I wouldn't say love. I liked North Carolina because my AAU team was like baby blue. So we always wore a bunch of baby blue Jordans, or like we would always get like that color warm up or like bag. So it was like a thing of mine. But I also lived in Florida around the time where I really started to fall in love, and that's Joakim Noah and Al Horford. So I got
Florida.
to watch. Yeah, I got to watch Udonis Haslem and Mike Miller and like go to the Florida like college team camps and stuff like that as a kid, as like a 10, 11-year-old.
Right.
When I'm like falling in love with basketball. So that was huge too, to watch them guys went back to back. I think it was 3 back national. Was it 3?
I think it's 2. I think they went to 3 and they won 2.
And they won 2.
Yeah.
So to see that as a kid, like starting to love the game, that had a huge impact on me too. But I never really had like a favorite college because I never could, like, players are there for 3-4 years and then they're gone.
Right.
So like I would always fall in love with a player and then he'd be going to the NBA and then I try to like watch him there. But yeah.
So you arrive in Lawrence, Kansas as a freshman from New Jersey. Have you ever been to Kansas before you came for a recruiting visit? No. So what was the thing that shocked you the most or maybe surprised you?
I don't know if I told you this story already and you just asking me because you know, but the most memorable thing for me, even prior to getting here before I even committed to come here, was on my visit. When I got to the airport and I seen how small it was, then I got in a car and we drove for 40 minutes before we got to Lawrence.
Right.
And I didn't see anything except grass.
Fields.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, bro, this is gonna be tough. That's all I could think about is like, what the hell am I gonna do out here?
Right.
Then you get to Lawrence and then it gets more, townish. You got restaurants and you got things. But for 30 minutes, 35 minutes, there's nothing. And I'm coming from New Jersey in the city. Like, I'm taking a bus to school, cabs every day, hopping trains. It's stuff going on. There's bodegas right down the street. I have to get in a car. I don't even have a license at this time. I don't even have a license at 18 years old because I just take the train or the bus everywhere.
Right.
So I get here and I can't just go get food or walk to the store to get a soda. Like, I gotta drive.
So when you get picked up at the airport, this is one of those just weird random questions. Like, who picks you up? Coach, players,
A manager.
A
They'll have a
manager.
manager. Yeah, they'll send a manager who will probably show you where you're gonna stay, and they'll probably meet you at your dorm or wherever you're gonna stay.
But at the airport that picked you up was a manager?
Yeah, it was a manager.
See, I would always assume it would have been a coach or another player.
Yeah, right. They're not. Yeah, right.
But were you committed at that point when you showed up?
No, when I came on my visit, I was not committed yet.
See, I would assume it'd be like a coach, because then you'd have 40 minutes of trying to fill the dead air of you driving in a car, looking around, going, "Where the heck am I?"
I think they want that though. I think they expect you to take that in. Like, I almost think it's part of it. Like, if you can
handle that, you can handle anything.
I really feel like it, especially at places like this, and when you're dealing with guys like me. And at that time, we had the twins from Philly, me from New Jersey, another kid that came from New Jersey at the same time, Mario Little, who came from Chicago, and then Tyrone Appleton came from Gary, Indiana, which is probably the closest to what this is compared to the rest of. I mean, Travis came from Kansas City that year too, so he was familiar with the area and how things work. But the rest of us were like, where the hell are we? And what the hell are we about to do? Which was good and bad because we got so close together because we just did everything together. So it was kind of cool to have a big recruiting class like that in a time like that.
So when you landed in Lawrence, did you know in your head this is probably where I'm going to go, or were you still on the fence? Or still?
Yeah. No. When I got here, it was over.
Was it because that was the only offer left?
No, I still had a bunch of offers left, actually. And it was crazy because I was one of the last best seniors in the country left. It was between me. I remember Amon Shumpert being in a bunch of conversations with me. It was a couple of other really big recruits that I'm pretty sure Kemba was in a couple conversations with me. It was a couple of other guards that were in the conversation because they had Tariq Evans, who went to Memphis that year, was in the conversation, being recruited and in a bunch of conversations about, oh, well, if you come here, then this guy might go here, but we would love to see you play them together. I remember the pitch for North Carolina and Georgia Tech was both of them were trying to get me and Amon Shumpert to come play the 1 and 2 there. And then Florida was like, well, we got Irvin Walker, who I love, from New York, one of my favorite people who was in my class. They got him. They also had a guard who came in the year before who was a top 100 or top 20 guard. And so, yeah, I still had a bunch of people, but when I got here, on my visit, again, they had just won a national championship, so they already had one up on everybody else. And not that I wasn't gonna have to compete for minutes, but with who and for how many minutes, right? Because if I would have went to Florida, which was probably the second option, I had 2 other freshman guards that I would have had to compete with for 4 years, opposed to maybe Sharon for 2 years, or maybe Tyrone Appleton for 2 years, who was the other guard who got recruited that year. So in my mind, it was I'll eventually play, right? Somebody in my mind, Sharon's an NBA guy anyway. He's not gonna be here 2 years. He's gonna be here 1 year. I'm gonna play a little bit with him. Might have to play behind him some, but when he leaves, I'm gonna really be here. So that was part of knowing that when I got here, because when I got here, Russell Robinson was my host. He was leaving, but he still was hosting me. And Sharon would pop in and out, but he was just telling me bro, you're gonna play, because who else is gonna play?
Russell's a New York guy, right?
That's
Did you know Russell from?
Russell older than me, but I watched Russell play a couple times when I was in high school, or when I was actually younger than high school. But Russell in New York. Russell was a legend. So yeah, I always looked up to Russell. And when I came here, even knowing that I wasn't going to play with him, but how he was treated, how he talked about Coach Self, how he was able to spend his 4 years, and how much he loved the school and the people was a lot, like had a lot to do with why I came here.
On your visit, was there a game that night? Basketball game, football game, or anything? Or you just get
No,
shown
I
around
think school was almost over. So again, I committed late. So like
Okay.
the season was definitely over. They had already won the championship. Guys had already left. I think we played pickup when I got here. So Mario was hanging around a little bit, still on the fence if he was going to stay or go. Russell, obviously a senior, but everybody was going. Even Sharon wasn't here a lot because he was like recovering from an injury or something. So, yeah, it was a perfect time for me actually to come here. Like you again, one of the things you said in the intro is me being able to start for 4 years. I mean, not too many people are. I don't think anybody's done that under Coach Self for one, like all 4 years, a starter. Like you locked in the starting lineup every game, unless you just do some dumb shit off the court. Like
Which we
get
might
and
get
go.
into that later.
Yeah, but other than that, you're going to start. You're going into practice. You're going into every game as a starter, like knowing that you're going to play a huge part if we win or lose. So I don't think anybody for 4 years can say that. And
Right.
a lot of guys were good enough to go to the NBA. A lot of guys just weren't good enough to start for 4 years. So with that being said, I was in the right position. I came at the right time. And I played good. I helped myself because I could have easily been put in that position and just not performed.
Right.
So I helped myself by playing good and, you know, doing the right things for the most part.
We got a lot of episodes to dig into your KU career, but before we move ahead a little bit, let's give us one KU story. I'll let you choose, man. It could be
Of me,
of
or just like
you,
a
a
team?
coach, a teammate, something funny, something, whatever. I'm gonna let you pick it, man. One story.
One story. I mean, I'm like
We'll get into a
4-year
lot,
guy.
but this is called a teaser in the radio business, man.
4-year guy. A lot of stories. Played with a lot of great players. Had a lot of good coaches over my career. Lots of things have happened. Lots and lots of things have happened.
Something that's not going to get anybody in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I'll for sure keep that in mind all the time. But I think one thing, I think one story that I always love to tell is about my senior year when it was me, Thomas, Elijah, and Travis. We were kind of like the older bunch. Excuse me. And then there was like Nadir Tharp, Merv Lindsay, Nico Roberts, Ben McLemore, Jamari Traylor. They were like the younger guys. The KUCNB is what they call themselves. And so they would just kind of bother us and get on our nerves like little brothers would. You know, they would just do annoying things after practice, before practice. They just would kind of bother us. And so we got into this thing where we would like jump them, like beat them up, like physically assault them if we caught one of them by themselves. There was more of them than us. And sometimes T-Rod wouldn't play because he'd just get too physical. So nobody would want to play. Like if he came around, all the fighting stopped. So like he couldn't always even play. But one time, so we would go through this all the time. You know, this was like kind of our thing. We catch one of them, whether it be like in a hotel or like at dinner, like, you know, like I'll be Nadir sat with me. He was my guy. And one day we was eating and T-Rob just like grabbed him up and I had him like sitting there for like an hour after dinner. We was like sitting there talking basketball and T-Rob, we just whooped his ass in the thing, right? And then one time, and this is the story I was getting to, is how they had Travis, they were playing video games. And so they sent Travis down there and Travis was like playing video games, they're kicking it for hours. Just kicking it for hours. A mass text goes out, me, Elijah, and T-Rob get it. Me and T-Rob together, we both look at our phones. Travis is duct taped to a chair with his mouth duct taped. He's wrapped up like a mummy. And they're all like, it was like a ransom video. They're all like, yeah, come get your boy, he in our room.
Whose room was it?
It was Jamari Traylor and Christian Garrett's. So, right down the hall. Like, we're literally opposite.
In the dorms?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the towers, Jayhawk Towers. We're literally opposite of them. So we go banging on the door, boom, 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 banging on the door, banging on the door. They're not opening it, but we hear them laughing and shit. They're still sending us videos on our phone as we're outside banging on the door. So, I don't know. I think probably Jamari probably got the idea to, let's crack it. Let's crack the door real quick to see where they at, because we stopped banging. As soon as he cracks the door, T-Rob takes the fire extinguisher, sticks the holes in there, and squeezes. Bro, 2 seconds later, They open the door and everybody just rolls out, stumbles out. Travis is still duct
Duct
taped.
tape.
He's still duct taped. So we had to go in their room full of smoke, drag him out. The fire thing goes off. Everybody runs out. The fire people come. Crazy. Obviously, Coach Self has to get called about this, and we all blame it on the young guys. So I mean, I don't even remember who got in trouble for it or not. Whoever room it was for sure got in trouble by the dorm people. Coach yelled at all of us probably. Just dumb shit. We would just do dumb shit like that all the time, bro. There's so many stories like that. Like, before I even got to my main story, I told you about me talking to Nadir and grabbing him up. We would do stuff like that all the time. But
That's a pretty good story.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good tease right there of what else is coming up on
it's
future
a bunch-
episodes
it's a bunch of those.
Tyshawn podcast with Tyshon Taylor.
I know some people who've listened to me talk before heard that story because it's so funny, and I tell it a lot. Probably it's like one of the first ones that come to my mind. But like you said, there's a bunch of those, man.
So we'll get into some of those in future episodes if you listen in on episode 2, 3, 4, and so on. So after you graduate from KU playing the national championship game, you're the 41st selection in the NBA draft.
41st.
41st. How was that? What was that night like?
The night was crazy. The whole entire night was amazing. I got to spend it in Jersey with my family, so that was fun. And I got to get drafted by a hometown team, so that was good. The draft day, I remember almost getting stuck in New York, catching a flat tire. My friend that I was with, his wife was threatening to like shut the car down, and I was like, bro, how can she shut the car down? He was like she has like a tracker on it, bro, and if it's stolen, she can like stop it. So basically, like, get your ass home while I can shut this car down, because we had been in New York for so long. I was looking for something to wear. Finally found something, and then the traffic on the way back out of the city was crazy that I didn't even get to my own draft party until midway through the first round. So I probably got there about the 18th, 20th pick, which I knew I wasn't going top 20, so I was good. Finally get there, talk to my family, I sit down, I chop it up. I thought I was going at 29 to Chicago. My agent didn't like guarantee it, but almost like they like you a lot and they do need a guard. So it could be you, or it could be like 3 other people. They ended up taking another guard, so I was like kind of sad. And I went and sat by myself for like a second. And once I did that, I sat there for probably like 10, 15 minutes. Then I started to like talk to my mom again. A couple more picks came. We got into the late 30s. And I wasn't even looking for my name because my agent told me from 29 to like 40, nobody needs you. So you might go the whole 30s and nobody even they might not even draft a guard. And then the 40s come, someone I know gets picked, I go to like text him congratulations, and then I hear the whole bar like scream. And I turn around and I'm like, they show my highlights on TV.
So you didn't even get a call from like your agent or like a
Well,
team?
yeah,
or
no, not before I got
Before you
drafted.
got
Not
drafted?
before I got drafted, and I'll tell you why. I got drafted by Portland, and 2 minutes later, the Nets.
traded?
Exactly. So then I get the call, but the shit had already happened. I already knew I was going to the Nets. So Portland didn't call me, obviously, to tell me that they would trade me. That was something that they talked about. So Avery Johnson called me, and then my agent called me like, "Did you talk to him? I just gave him your number." And I was like, "Yeah, I just got off the phone." I couldn't hear shit he was saying though because everybody was still screaming.
Right.
I tried to like walk away, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm so excited." And he's like, "Good. I love you. I love talking to you. We loved everything about our meeting. We look forward to meeting you. We'll be in the offices tomorrow when you come by and all of that." And then we went out and had a fucking ball. Best night of my life. I go home now and some of my homies still talk to me about that night, bro. And it's crazy because it was sick, bro. And I was a second round pick, so T-Rod was the first round pick and was in the same club, so we got to like hang out together.
That's awesome.
And the shit was crazy.
So how different was NBA life compared to college life?
The life is completely different. The game is not like huge differences in the game. The lifestyle is completely different. You go from being a child, everything taken care of for you, people doing everything for you, and I guess that's still the same way in the NBA, kinda, because you're paying people to do that now. But yeah, it's just a complete different lifestyle. You're on your own. You're only job is to make sure that you're staying in shape and you're working on your game. You don't have any other responsibilities outside of that, other than the businesses and the things that other players are starting to get into. But at one point, it's just basketball, 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 and we just try to be the best at that. So I spent a lot of time in the gym, and I spent a lot of time out in the clubs and shit, because that's part of the life. I feel like
Right.
And then I wasn't playing as much as I really wanted to, so I did that probably more than I should have, as a coping mechanism, or a way to kind of like escape feeling like I wasn't good enough on the basketball side. It was like,
Right.
all right, well, I'm good enough to live like an NBA player, So that was my approach. Kid, anybody listening, don't take that approach. Stay locked in the gym. Don't ever leave. But yeah, that's kind of the difference between a lifestyle, is that you're making your own decisions, and there's not really too many people there telling you like, it's probably not the way to go.
Right.
Or wait, you got to wake up early in the morning. You got practice tomorrow. You got this schedule. Like, it's you doing that, or having to make sure you have the right people around you to do that for you. So yeah, complete different lifestyle.
We can get into more of that also, future episodes. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe, like on our YouTube channel.
Hit the like.
Hit the like buttons.
Follow. Let's get it up.
We've been working on some future promos for once we hit a certain amount of likes, and we'll be giving away some cool prizes and got some good things coming down the road. Random question. We're about to wrap up the first inaugural episode. Random question. If you're a closer in the Major League Baseball, game on the line, bottom of the ninth, you get the call from the bullpen. Gate opens up, you get ready to run out. What's your song blaring on the PA system?
My name is Hove, H to the OV. I used to move snowflakes by the OZ. I guess even back there you could call me the CEO of the ROC. Hove.
See, I thought maybe you were going to go a little Mariano Rivera, some Inner Sandman.
I love Mariano.
I mean, that was probably one of my favorites.
What I would do. If you was asking me who I'd have walking out, I'd have said, oh yeah, Mariano for sure. That's my closer for life. But my music, it's got to be some Jay-Z or some. What's Frank Sinatra's song? The Old Blue Eyes. I Did It My Way.
My Way.
I did it my way.
Are we going to be able to edit that part out?
Nah, the people need to hear that. Hoboken's very own Frank Sinatra featuring Hoboken's very own Tyshon Taylor. Can't beat that.
Tyshawn, appreciate you having me. You got anything to close the show with?
No, man. Thank you. Again, I appreciate all the behind-the-scenes work you did to get us here. And I just look forward to continuing to talk shit to you and work with you.
Make sure and listen to episode number 2 coming soon, and then episode 3 to follow. I think we're working on a special guest for episode 3. We don't want to bust that out yet, but maybe we will on episode number 2. Thanks for joining us, and good night now.